Welcome once again to our Certified Christian Life Coach Training. This is Module 7 of the training. This is the College of Christian Professionals and Researchers, a college of Spirit Brood Theological Seminary. In this module, we will be looking at the differences between life coaching and counseling. I'm Reverend Dr. Temilolu Aliu, and it's my pleasure to facilitate this module of the training. Now, in this module, we will be discussing the boundaries between life coaching and counseling. What is the dividing line, as it were? We will also talk about the unique roles and responsibilities of a life coach as it differs from that of a counselor. And then we'll talk a bit about the ethical guidelines that differentiate coaching from counseling. Let's start with some basic definitions because if we're going to be considering the difference between coaching and counseling, we must first start by understanding what they mean independent of the other. Now, we will define three areas of practice. One is counseling, the other is guidance, and then life coaching. Now, what is counseling? The process of counseling will usually look at a person's feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. That is the focus of a counselor. So, when you meet with a counselor, he wants to help identify what is wrong with your feeling, what is wrong with your thinking process or your thought patterns, or what is wrong with your behavior, and then help to correct those things so that you can have better mental health and emotional well-being. Now, the end goal of the counseling process is to help clients develop coping strategies for life's challenges so that as it were, they can cope better when the challenges of life show up. That is the end goal, of the counseling process. Now, how about guidance? Guidance is a specific type of counseling, as they call it. It provides direction, advice, or gives information, enough information for a person to make informed decisions or to solve problems. So, take for instance, someone is at the verge of finishing high school and entering, into college or into the university, and is wondering what course should I study, what career path should I, go for. This person may need some form of guidance, things like performing psychometric analysis, things like looking at intelligence type and all of that, then to give advice, to give direction, equip the person with enough information so that they can make an informed choice or informed decision. So guidance focuses on helping people understand their strengths, the options available to them, the resources available to them. It gives practical support and advice. Now, when you look at this, it is beginning to look a little bit like counseling, but then also a little bit like life coaching. That is why it is important to see the place of guidance. Now, life coaching proper. What is life coaching? Life coaching usually helps people to identify their personal goals or their professional goals and then pushes them to achieve, these goals. So the life coaching process will focus more on the potentials that you have, the obstacles that are stopping you, and then how you can overcome these obstacles so that your performance will be maximized. The life coaching process uses accountability, encouragement, and other practical strategies to achieve results. So, when you look at it again, you then realize that guidance seems to be somewhere in between life coaching and counseling. But now, what are the major areas where life coaching differs from counseling? To start with, life coaching always looks towards the future and also focuses on taking action. A life coaching session has failed if it does not end with an action plan. A life coaching session has failed if it does not end with an action plan. So, life coaching looks at the future and then focuses on taking action. Now, counseling, on the other hand, is typically past and present oriented, looks at the past to resolve problems that are coming from the past, looks at the present to make you feel better, think better, or act better now. That is one major difference between life coaching and counseling. Another difference is this: life coaching focuses on goals. You set goals, you develop yourself, and then you achieve your goals. That is what life coaching is all about. Counseling, on the other hand, is not really about goals, it's about behavioral adjustment, it's about emotional healing. Counseling does not really focus on what you want to achieve tomorrow, what you want to achieve next year, what you want to. It's not really about the goals, your life goals, your personal goals, your professional goals. Counseling looks more at your current emotional state, your current behavior. Where do you need to adjust? And how do we help you make those adjustments? What are the things that affect your behavior? What are the things that affect your emotions? Then how can we build some form of resilience so that those things no longer affect you the way they do? Now that is what counseling focuses on. Another area of difference is that life coaching involves maximizing your strengths. In fact, a life coach does not typically relate with people's weaknesses, because the approach of life coaching is that what you need to succeed is right in you. So you may have some strengths, you may have some weaknesses, but if you focus on your strengths, you will definitely achieve your goals. So life coaching wants to help the client to maximize their strengths. And then life coaching looks at challenges as obstacles. They are just obstacles on your way to the future. So the second thing that life coaching looks at is how to overcome these obstacles so that you can achieve meaningful goals. So again, your potentials, your strengths, that is what life coaching will look at. Counseling, on the other hand, looks at underlying causes of behavioral and emotional pain to solve mental or emotional health issues. Now, life coaching also focuses on setting clear goals and moving forward with practical steps. The counselor, on the other hand, wants you to understand past trauma and develop coping strategies for present challenges. I believe that we have emphasized this already. Now, guidance, like I said, falls somewhere in between coaching and therapy, or and counseling, as some may call it. Like life coaching, guidance focuses on helping people navigate important decisions or goals. However, counseling is not as goal oriented as life coaching. Now, guidance, guidance rather, is not as goal oriented as life coaching. Now, guidance is also similar to counseling because it may address emotional issues. For instance, people who have self-esteem issues, self-confidence issue, they are good for this, but they don't feel like they are good enough for it. Now, a guidance counselor can, give them some pep talk, can, help them boost their confidence in one way or the other. So, counseling may address emotional issues, but it does not explore, guidance rather may address emotional issues, but it does not deeply explore trauma or treat mental health disorders like counseling or like therapy will do. So you see that guidance in some ways looks like life coaching because it focuses on goals to some extent. But at the same time, guidance also looks like counseling because it may address emotional issues. So guidance is not fully counseling, yet it is not fully life coaching. Most young people who want to make career decisions and all of that, they need just a guidance counselor. But as you begin to move up the ladder of life, you realize that guidance counseling may not do quite much for you. You will need a life coach, and that is why this profession, this ministry, is very noble. And that is why, as an aspiring life coach, you understand that your role, your goal is to push people forward to their dreams, to push people forward to the future that they want. Again, as a life coach, you are not looking at addressing emotional issues, you are not looking at exploring trauma, you are not looking at solving mental health issues, you are looking at pushing people towards their goals. Bible says in Psalm 1 verse 1, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. I believe that this is one verse of scripture that many people know already. You must have heard or recited this verse before. I'm sure most likely you have it committed to memory. But I want us to examine this scripture from uh, the viewpoint of the discussion we are having. Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. The counsel of the ungodly, we can say that is counseling. Nor stands in the way of sinners, the path of sinners. We can say that is guidance. You need guidance to walk in the right path. Nor sit in the seat of the scornful. The seat of the scornful talks about where you are seated, your perspective, your posture, your positioning, your attitude. You see, this is what life coaching deals with. So the life coach wants to ask, where are you seated? What is your mindset? What is your perspective? How do you view life? What is your attitude towards life, towards your goals? And then what is your approach? What strategies are you trying to use to accomplish your goal? Every time someone comes to you as a life coach, you are trying to understand these four things. Many times, the obstacles to the future, the obstacles to the goals that people have set for themselves is in their mindset, their perspective, their attitude, or their approach. It is either they need to develop a better mindset, they need to look at things from a new perspective, they need to develop a better attitude, or they just need better strategies. More importantly, it is that all of these things are in them. They have it locked up in them. Your goal is to help them bring it out. Your goal is to guide them, as it were, to explore, to brainstorm, and by themselves identify the problem, by themselves profile the solution. What are the similarities between life coaching and counseling? Number one, both life coaching and counseling offer support in some way. Life coaching support to reach out for your goals, counseling support to address emotional or behavioral issues. But at the end of the day, both of them offer external support. Number two is that both of them depend on having a listening ear, somebody that you can talk to, that can listen to you, and that can be there for you. Number three is that both the life coach and the counselor are trained professionals. Now, the training definitely differs. The requirements definitely are different. To become a certified therapist, there are major academic milestones that you must have crossed. Now, counseling as a ministry is a little bit different from counseling or therapy as a mainstream profession. But whichever one it is, counseling as a ministry, counseling as profession, life coaching as a ministry, life coaching as a profession, in any case, all of this requires specialized training. Now, number four, both the counseling process and the life coaching process involve contact sessions. You are going to have dedicated sessions with your client, the person who is seeking, your service as a life coach, you must set out time, to have a session with them. Your session can be 30 minutes long, can be 45 minutes long, can be 1 hour long. People can book more than one session, at a stretch and all of that. But I advise life coaches not to book any session at a stretch that is more than an hour with any single client. 45 minutes is even more ideal. 45 minutes, more ideal. Anything you cannot fit into that 45-minute session, let it go into the next session. Another similarity again between life coaching and counseling is that they both focus, on personal growth and improvement. If you go through the counseling process, you overcome trauma and all of that, definitely your life will become better. That is some form of growth, that is some form of improvement. If it is a life coaching process and you are reaching out towards your goal, you are hitting your goals, making progress in life, making progress in your career, making progress in your relationships, that is also a type of growth and improvement. These are ways in which life coaching, is similar to counseling. Another way that life coaching is similar to counseling is that they both use non-judgmental approach. If you are going to succeed as a life coach, you must be non-judgmental. It doesn't matter, how much people have failed, how many times they have tried and they are not getting it. It doesn't matter how bad the case seems to be. You must not be judgmental in your approach. Another similarity between life coaching and counseling is that they both emphasize confidentiality. Just as it is in counseling, as a life coach, you are not permitted to divulge any information you get from your client to a third party. Anything that a client discusses with you is between the both of you alone, except you are professionally or legally required or authorized by the client to release such information. Next to that is that both counseling and life coaching use questioning techniques. In one of the earlier modules of this course, we have talked about, the art of powerful questioning. Just like life coaching, counseling also uses questioning techniques. And then both of them require a measure of accountability. As a life coach, you must be able to hold your client accountable to the action plans that you both have decided upon. Now, let's look at the major areas of differences. There are 5 major areas of differences between life coaching and counseling that I believe every life coach must pay attention to, because if you don't pay attention to these major areas of differences, you may think you are doing life coaching and you have slipped into doing counseling, which you are not trained for, especially if you are a pastor. Pastors are used to doing what you call unofficial counseling. But I strongly believe that pastors will profit better from doing life coaching than from doing counseling. And if a pastor has to do counseling, it must be some sort of hybrid, as it were. Now, number one major area of difference is in the training. We talked about that a bit earlier. The training of a counselor is different from the training of a life coach. A counselor is trained to help their clients based on their own professional knowledge and experience. So, for instance, you find somebody, who maybe struggles with some sort of sexual perversion and then comes to a counselor. One of the things the counselor would want to ask: have you ever been sexually abused? Why? Because from his professional knowledge and experience, there is a link with past history of abuse, sexual abuse or rape, and then sexual perversion, especially if it happened, when the person was still a child. So a counselor knows that based on their training and brings that training to bear to help the client understand the root cause of their problem and then to work towards a solution. The counselor also knows techniques that can be used, to get over some of these things. So cognitive behavioral therapy technique rather, and all of these things. So he recommends, say, okay, I think this is what we can do to help you walk through your challenges. So a counselor is trained to help the clients based on their own professional knowledge and experience. But it is not so for a life coach. A life coach, on the other hand, is trained to help clients reflect, think critically, and come to their own conclusions. A life coach, a counselor can tell you this is where your problem is coming from. A life coach is not permitted to do that, even if he thinks he knows where it is coming from. The training of a life coach is to help the client to think critically, to reflect deeply, and come to conclude on their own. If there is a challenge, the life coach, asks powerful questions that will drive the client to think deep and identify, I think this is where this is coming from, and then I think this is what I can do, to get through it. So you see that the training of a counselor is very, very, very different from that of a life coach. The second area of difference is in the questioning. Counselors use targeted questions to help clients see things from new perspectives so as to gain better understanding and insight. So a counselor will ask questions that will help the clients to see things differently, to see things from a new perspective. So someone comes and says, you know what, I'm good for nothing. The counselor wants to help the person see things from a new perspective. So why do you think you are good for nothing? Oh, because each time I do something, my boss scolds me, or my boss is never satisfied with what I do. And then the counselor says, are you sure your boss is never satisfied? Has there been any time that your boss commended you for doing good? Well, my boss commended me for doing good last week. He said what I did. So do you now realize that at least you know how to do some things well? And it is not that you never satisfy your boss. Those kinds of things. Just trying to help the person see from new perspectives. But you see, life coaches do not ask questions to help people see things from new perspectives. Rather, life coaches use powerful questions to help their clients generate their own solutions and strategies. So, my boss is never satisfied. Why do you think your boss is never satisfied? What do you think you can do about it? Why do you feel your boss is never satisfied with you? Has he told you that directly? So then, as they think, as they reflect, as they talk by themselves, they generate their own solutions. Most importantly, by the time you come to a life coach, you are not coming to a life coach. For instance, someone comes to you as a life coach, the person is not coming to discuss why their boss is never satisfied and how it makes them feel bad and how it makes them feel worthless. Such a person needs a counselor more. But if the person says, you know what, my goal is to perform better at my work, my goal is to impress my boss, now that one needs a life coach. And then by themselves, they generate their own solutions and strategies to get it done. The life coach will use powerful questioning skills to drive them to do that. Another major area of difference is in the methods. The methods. Counselors use therapeutic techniques to address challenges, to promote healing. The focus of the counselor is therapy, it's like treatment. The life coach, on the other hand, does more of motivation. So the life coach inspires actions using motivational techniques. The life coach wants you to unlock your potentials, wants you to achieve your goals. So the life coach is more of a motivator and not a therapist. So the tools that are used are different. As we proceed in further modules of this training, we'll be introducing you to some life coaching tools, powerful questioning tools that you can use. to help your clients become the best that they want to be or achieve the goals that they have set for themselves. So, as a life coach, you have no business with therapeutic techniques. You have no business whatsoever with therapeutic techniques. As a life coach, you do not do therapy, you do more of motivation. Another area of difference is in the goals that we set. You see, the goal of every coach is to nurture talent and enhance performance in the game. That is why sports professionals, athletes, and all of that usually will have a coach. Every football team will have a coach. The coach is interested in the game. The goal of the coach is find people who have talent, bring them, we nurture the talent, their performance increases, and then they do well in the game. So, for a life coach, there must be something to work with. There must be some talent, there must be some desire, there must be some willingness, there must be something to work with. You don't come to a life coach with nothing to work with, because his goal is to nurture that thing, that strength, that talent, that ability, so that you can do well in the game, whatever that means for you. For some people, that game may be their marriage. For some people, that game may be their career. For some people, that game may be some other thing. But the life coach is interested, or the coach generally is interested in the game. But that is very different from a counselor, because the goal of every counselor is to address challenges. He wants to promote healing and well-being. So we say that for a counselor, there must be something to work through. There must be a trauma, a behavioral problem, an emotional issue, or maybe a thought pattern challenge, or whatever it is. There must be something. Anxiety, depression, whatever. There must be something to work through. Dysfunctional family background, or anything. But you see, for a counselor, the counselor needs something to work through. The life coach needs something to work with. So again, as a life coach, if someone comes to you, you are not looking for what to work through. You are not looking for what problem or challenge to address. You are looking for what to work with, what strength to maximize, what talent to put, to use. The goal of every coach is the game. The game. The coach has his eyes on the game. And please pay attention to that in your coaching practice. Another area of difference is in the duration. Coaching usually has a definite or predefined timeline. This is going to last 6 months. We have one session every week for 6 months. This is going to last for 3 months. This is going to last for 1 month. Most times, coaching will have a definite duration or predefined timeline. 12 sessions, that's all we have. And we are done. 8 sessions, 3 sessions, that's all we have, and we are done. Counseling, on the other hand, can be more open-ended. Depending on the complexity of the matter that you're dealing with, it may continue as long as needed. Some people see counselors every week, years on end. But you see, life coaching has many times a predefined timeline. So anything you want to achieve, you focus on achieving them within that time, so that by the time the your sessions are over, maybe you have 12 sessions, you have exhausted the 12 sessions, the client is much better and can by themselves, run towards the future. So the duration is another major area of difference. Now, look at what Dr. Ellen Bobby said. She said some well-meaning life coaches can cause real harm to people who are actually in need of a therapist. This is scary. That as a life coach, you may mean well, but you may cause serious harm to people who really need counseling, who need a therapist. On the other hand, she said that traditional therapy can feel like going around in circles to people who are really in need of coaching. So a counselor also Get involved with somebody who needs life coaching. What will then happen is it will just look like they are running around circles, not making progress, because the life coach wants to walk through something, wants to address your emotional, behavioral, attitudinal issue, or thought pattern issue, rather. So, for someone who just wants to make progress, who just wants to reach out for their goal, seeing a counselor may look like going around in circles. But now, since this is a life coaching training, let's focus on how much harm a life coach can do to someone who really needs a therapist. It means you must identify when someone does not need your service as a life coach and instead needs a therapist. See what the Bible tells us in Romans chapter 12, verse 6. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. Our gifts are different according to the grace that God has given to us, according to the training that we have received. So if your own is life coaching, then do life coaching in accordance with your faith. Don't go beyond the bounds of life coaching. And may I tell you also, you can get yourself in serious trouble. Now we have people who are both counselors and life coaches. We have some people like that. They are certified counselors or licensed counselors. At the same time, they are certified life coaches. For such people, they must know when to switch from counseling to life coaching. So the Bible says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, there is a right time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. So if you are trained in both life coaching and counseling, you must know when to switch from one to the other. Because there is a right time for everything. And if you are not trained for both, you are a life coach, you have completed this training, you can offer your life coaching services, but please do not get involved with people who actually need therapy. If yours is life coaching, do it in accordance to your faith. Now I'll show you, uh, you know, times where you need to either switch from coaching to counseling if you are trained for that, or refer to a counselor. Number one, when a client shows signs of emotional or mental health distress. Whenever you notice emotional health distress, mental health distress, things like anxiety, things like depression, things like trauma, many times these things require deeper therapeutic support. Yeah, beyond the therapy, I would recommend a Christian counselor who also knows how to minister to their soul. But whenever you see signs of emotional or mental health distress, please refer immediately. Or if you are a trained counselor, switch to counseling, but make sure you inform the client that at this juncture, I think what you need is counseling services. And we are going to be doing that. And if you are referring, let them know and then make a referral. Another indication that you should switch or refer from coaching to counseling is when the client struggles to move past personal issues or challenges. And then these in turn make the person unable to focus on goal setting or moving forward. So there is just this issue or this challenge that keeps coming up, something that happened in the past and all of that, but it keeps coming up, and then sometimes it doesn't allow the person to really focus on setting clear goals or focus on moving forward. So, for instance, someone who is looking to settle down but keeps talking about trust issues from past relationships and all of that. These are personal issues or challenges that are yet to be resolved, or that sometimes will get in the way of goal setting or get in the way of forward movement. When you notice that there is a major issue like that and it is making the person unable to focus, Because sometimes there may be minor issues, it does not affect focus, but it is just there. That is not a problem. But if it is beginning to affect the person's focus, you need to abort coaching and either refer or switch to counseling. Another indication that you should either switch or refer from coaching to counseling is when past trauma suddenly resurfaces somewhere along the line. It was never an issue, it was not there before, you're making progress, the client seems to be moving forward, and suddenly a past trauma resurfaces somewhere along the line. And then the person can no longer engage effectively in the coaching process. If that happens, please switch to counseling if you are equipped for that, or refer the person immediately. Next to that, clients show self-destructive patterns or behavior that indicate deeper psychological issues, things like self-sabotage, excessive fear, dysfunctional relationships, self-destructive patterns or self-destructive behaviors. When you see those things, they sometimes will indicate that there is a deeper psychological issues. They may need a counselor to help them walk through it. So when you notice these things, please refer immediately. Refer immediately. And finally, when the client lacks emotional resilience or coping mechanisms, so maybe they find it difficult to manage their emotions or cope with stress or handle life challenges, and you realize that these are the reasons why they are not making progress. In such a case, please make an immediate referral or switch from coaching to counseling. And with that, we have come to the end of this module. Thank you for listening thus far. If you need to reach out to us, the contact details are on your screen. I look forward to seeing you again in the next module. God bless you.